Maya, money in the banks. Our convo will be like whoa. I am really excited to chat with you.
I can't wait.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to just getting to know you better through this conversation. We've had some fun together doing some content for the Hot Yoga Spot. We've gone with the flow together. We go with the flow regularly.
Definitely.
But where did it all begin for you? Where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
I think you're going to be surprised, actually.
Okay.
I was born in North Carolina.
Okay.
I feel like people probably wouldn't guess that.
Would not have guessed that for the 50 states.
I know. No, I don't. I think every single person that didn't know me growing up that I say Raleigh, North Carolina, they're like, what? That doesn't make any sense based on your personality. But that's where I was born.
Okay.
I didn't stay there for very long, though.
Yep.
My dad stayed down south. He lived in Maryland most of my life. And him and my mom, they split when I was young. She's from the Albany area. So grew up in Albany. Kind of also grew up in Maryland because I traveled back and forth once a month.
So quick fun fact about North Carolina. I have a lot of family in Asheville.
Oh.
And Raleigh, my cousin Eric Ager is a state legislator.
No
Democrat
way.
from Western North Carolina, represents part of Asheville, so he's in Raleigh all the time.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool place. Asheville's really cool, though.
Yeah, really fun vibes for sure.
Yeah.
So North Carolina, Maryland, and then, but you really grew up here.
Went to high school here.
Yeah.
Went to Guilderland. My family's all from Guilderland. Many of them live in Altamont. Many of them went to Guilderland High. So it's kind of just, they were the Camardos, but it's been the Camardos here for a while.
Yeah.
But kind of cool. I got to go down to Maryland frequently. My dad now lives in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Okay.
So it's kind of fun. I got a taste of like two different kind of worlds in a way.
Yeah. So you grew up here, and then talk to me a little bit more about what was it really like for you in school?
Yeah.
Like, what was like being a younger version of Maya like for you?
Yeah, I feel like I've always kind of been who I am in terms of personality. Yeah, like personality's always been the same. I've always been big athlete, and that's my family as well. Anyone who knows people from my family probably know them from a sports team. Like that's just kind of people be like, Camardo? Oh my gosh, lacrosse, soccer, whatever it is.
Any relation to fictional character Adam Banks from the Mighty Ducks movies? No.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't know what that is?
No.
So I still need to get it.
Ducks?
I may have an Adam Banks jersey tucked away somehow from the Mighty Ducks, like movie merch. But anyways, random fact.
I don't even know what that movie is.
Oh, it's a classic. It's a 90s gem. Adam Banks. Fake. You can use him as a
young.
fake.
That's why it's 90s.
Just drop him in as a fake relative.
Okay, fair enough. Well,
point.
there's a football player too with the last name Banks.
Yes.
I don't know who.
Well, there's Ernie Banks, the baseball player.
There's a common last name.
Willie Banks.
That makes it lame. And now we're just finding all the different Bankses.
We'll just have the rest of this episode be about listing off famous people with the, Richie Rich, anybody with any sort of bank.
And none of them
name.
Related to me, so it's boring.
Well,
I wish. I should have been like, actually, yes. That's my uncle. You might believe me.
I might. But let's get back to the real Maya Banks.
Yes. So definitely personality has been consistent. Working out, always a big thing people know me from. Growing up, I mean, do you want me to get into what I was like in school?
What sports did you actually play in school?
Yeah, no, so I grew up playing soccer. That was my first big sports love. I was obsessed with soccer because my mom played soccer in college. And started playing lacrosse as well because I have an uncle who went to UMBC for lacrosse, and I have an aunt who went to Fairfield. Okay. So I was like, I guess I have to play this sport too. So soccer, lacrosse, but then I also did figure skating lessons at one point. I ran track in the winter. I did a lot of things. I like to ice skate. I like to ski.
Well, I know something about you that maybe most people don't know that I want to have you talk about.
Let's do it.
You are a closeted political nerd. And I say that with love.
I'm such a nerd. That's so great.
I love it.
I am absolutely. So that's also since day one.
Yeah. And like, we don't need to necessarily have the whole conversation about politics, but I think it's cool that you're multifaceted, that there's different interests you have. And so like, what made you interested in like public affairs generally, politics?
So it's funny. I have always been an eavesdropper, and I've always wanted to know what the adults are talking about. Like, since I was little, I've been very keen on knowing what my mom was talking to my uncle about on the phone, annoyed or whatever. I would kind of stand behind and listen in a little bit.
Do you have any unresolved traumas from sitting at the kids' table during the holidays?
Yes, I wouldn't do it. Like that, I wasn't doing that. I'm the kind of kid that wanted to sit at the adult table and ask them questions, and they will all say that. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, Maya's been asking questions we don't have the answers to since day one." And so it was Obama's election.
Okay.
His first term. And I just wanted to know what they were talking about, what they meant. And that's where the political interest started. And I started saying I wanted to be a lawyer when I was like probably 9.
Okay.
If not earlier than that. I didn't even know what a lawyer was. I'm like, I'm going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because I thought if I'm a lawyer, then maybe I can be like a Barack Obama one day. Like, I'm not kidding. And then I did political research in high school.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a closeted political nerd.
Yeah, but you've left out, in my mind, the lead, which was that you had at one point your own podcast.
I did.
Crossfire style, for anyone who's old enough to know Crossfire, where you were the liberal and then you were engaging with conservatives.
Yes, I sure did. So that was a part of the research that I did. It was it was an independent research inquiry course that Guilderland High School puts on. It was the 2 librarians. They're so great.
Yeah.
They did it sort of just as a side passion for wanting kids to be able to learn more about what they're interested in and really get to the bottom of learning how to research, I think was their point. But it was pretty cool. There was like maybe 6 of us in the whole school that did it. And you could take any topic you wanted to and go as deep as you wanted. And so I chose debating people. I mean, fundamentally, that's what it was, political polarization. But I was hoping to get very ultra conservative people in a chair across from me so I could be like, so what do you think about guns?
Yeah. I love talking with smart people who disagree with me or just have a completely different view from them and trying to understand where they're coming from. I love it. I love it. Always have, always will.
Me as well.
So with that passion, with those interests in mind, how did that evolve in your life as you went from high school in kind of further outreach and efforts in your life?
Yeah. So I guess the segue there is I knew early on I wanted to study political science. That's what I was going to do. Yeah. But sports were my number one. So I committed to college when I was 15 because I got recruited to San Diego State.
Oh, as an athlete?
Yeah. So I got recruited for lacrosse. Back then, which the rules changed right after I committed, you would get recruited that early and you would verbally commit as early as sophomore year because by then they're filling the rosters up. So I verbally committed there and then I signed my senior year.
So you grew up here. How did you get on the radar of a San Diego school for lacrosse? Yeah, I really did.
Okay, because it's kind of funny. And this is the truth.
Okay.
So I was really bad at emailing coaches for tournaments. And I was interested in going to Boston University. That was one of the schools that I thought Boston would be cool.
Yeah.
And my mom would get really mad at me and she'd say, you don't do anything. And I pay all this money for you to go to these tournaments. And why don't you just email the coaches? And so literally in spite of that, I was like, okay, what's the coolest location and the furthest away from here that I could email right now? San Diego State, perfect. Okay. And so I emailed them and lo and behold, I ended up getting recruited. And I was like, wait, okay.
See, that's wild to me because I didn't know the origin story for you getting San Diego. Mm-hmm. And this is another kind of crazy thing we have in common. I played a brief career as a high school lacrosse goalie.
Really?
Freshman year of high school, had a 1-goal GAA. I was very proud of it. Didn't wear my glasses, so I just threw my head out there and just basically blocked balls with the helmet.
But I mean, whatever works when you're in the goal.
It worked.
And that's respect, because goalies are doing the hardest job. I mean, in a sense, they're doing the hardest job in the field. I could never put myself in that position. Yeah. So, but that's funny. I didn't realize you played lacrosse.
Yeah, 1 year. Yeah, I also, one of my favorite Halloween costume choices for 1 year, I just decided to be a different personality myself. If I had just continued to be a lax bro. Like, just be that version of myself.
I mean, what are those shorts everyone wore? They're like the Flow Society.
Yeah, I didn't quite have those, but I had like the oversized sweatpants and the varsity jacket and some like Ray-Bans and just talked in metaphor.
I think I thought I was a lax bro myself. I mean, I had the Flow shorts. Okay. When I look back, it's shocking. I looked like a lax bro. I was not taking on the lax girl jersey vibe. I was going full, lax bro.
So were there other sports that you kind of pursuing more seriously? Or was lacrosse kind of always the one you felt like you could get the scholarship maybe for?
Well, that's exactly right. I think I knew, let's just be real. Less girls play lacrosse in the country. I knew that it was going to be easier for me to play that in college. I also just wasn't as good at soccer. I was decent. Like, I think I've always been a good athlete, but I was better at lacrosse quicker, and I knew I wanted to play something in college. So it kind of just worked out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you go to San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
You're dropped on the West Coast. What happens from there?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that many of my team members they originally were from the East Coast, because lacrosse is not as big out in California. So to this day, many of my best friends from my lacrosse team in San Diego are from Maryland, and some of them came back home, some didn't, but that was cool. So originally I made friends kind of vibing with people, knowing that we're all transplants. Started playing lacrosse my freshman year, which was 2019. So that was super fun until February.
Yep.
and then it wasn't so fun anymore because we all got sent home.
Right. Some big world event happened.
A named world event happened.
Yeah.
We all had to fly back to our hometowns, and that was crazy. That was definitely not what I was expecting. I remember it was one day that I was calling my mom to vent about not thinking that I was going to play that season. And then the next day, nobody was playing that season, and we were all going home. So that was crazy. But my college friends and I, a bunch of my teammates and I, got a house in San Diego so that we could still just live off of campus and have fun in college while we could.
So what area of San Diego were you really living in?
My freshman and sophomore year, or my freshman, sophomore, junior year, I was in the college area, which is right outside of El Cajon.
Okay.
If you're familiar with that.
Yeah, for people who might be listening or watching, like, how close is this to like the ocean?
Yeah, so I'm not great at geography. But it's more inland. It's about, I would say it was about 20 minutes to drive to a beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are listening, watching, who are not as familiar with San Diego geographics, we're turning this into a geography lesson.
Yeah.
It's a few hours south of LA, pretty much right on the Mexican border.
Yeah.
San Diego is like southern California.
In fact, something we had to do on our team was tell our coaches we would not go to Tijuana because people would try to go there to party, and that was not allowed for us. But that's how close it is to Mexico.
Yeah, for me, I really know a lot about San Diego because my mother grew up in Chula Vista. So she was very much a San Diego girl herself.
Yeah.
My aunt also lives out there, continues to live out there. And so I'm in San Diego fairly regularly and was there for the holidays, which was great. And you gave me some great recs on yoga studios, which we'll talk about in a little bit for sure.
We'll get there very soon.
We'll get there. But That lends itself well. I mean, you're there as a college student.
Yep.
You're navigating the pandemic. How did that college journey with lacrosse eventually transition into yoga?
So that's a less fun story. But really what happened was we all came back to college my sophomore year. And in the fall is off season for lacrosse. So call it fall ball. It's more just preparation for the spring, but given it was a Division I program, it's still pretty intense. We couldn't really do much because of COVID. We were legitimately practicing in boxes. Our coaches had lined little squares. We would have to stand there and do stick work or do whatever in our boxes. So not really a real season, even fall ball season. Winter happens. We ended up having to combine our Thanksgiving and Christmas break just because of COVID stuff. By the time we all got back, it was probably mid-January. So I got back to college. I did one practice. Second practice, we were about 2 hours and 45 minutes in. It was a pretty long day, and we were all exhausted. I remember I was saying to my teammates that my legs felt like they were dragging on the ground. We were exhausted. And the score, they always had kind of the score timer up when we had practice so you could see how long you've been going or how much time was left. And we were in a scrimmage. I was guarding one of my best friends. Last 3 minutes of practice, took a step, blew out my knee. So I knew immediately I had already torn one of my ACLs in high school my senior year, and I recovered kind of quickly just because I sort of was like, this is a fluke. I'd never been injured before. I'm like, I recovered quick from high school, but the second ACL, second knee, not a great thing to do.
So when that happens, what's going through your mind?
Well, I mean, I immediately knew exactly what I had done because I recognized the feeling. Honestly, at that point, I thought, all right, I guess I'm rehabbing. I guess I'm going to come back because there's no way that I'm going to quit after I just went through a COVID year, right? I didn't just wait an entire year following lacrosse rules and not just being a normal college student or having an internship in politics or thinking about, how I'm going to get to law school or, I didn't drop all of that just to tear my ACL and quit. I'm not going to do that. So I feel like I was really at the beginning, I was ready to be strong and fight through it. And I thought, well, I guess, I'm going to have a comeback story, if anything.
But all of that within that moment, or was that kind of a process of coming to that realization?
No, I think honestly, that was quick. The day that I tore my ACL, I was pretty set that I was going to be fighting to come back and play. That was kind of my initial thought. And then I think as I started to rehab and realized that maybe the second knee wasn't going to be as easy. I say easy. It's not easy. When you tear your ACL, you're a year-ish recovery. You can't walk for a bit. You definitely can't run for a couple months. But doing your second one is definitely not as simple as just doing one. So I think as I rehabbed and as I realized it was definitely not easy, that's when I started to be like, oh gosh, like maybe I'm not going to play again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did that eventually, was that the thing that led you to yoga? It recovering from that injury?
Yeah. So I got to the point where I actually had come completely back from my ACL injury. It was a year later. But I knew I wasn't going to play for many of reasons. Whole different conversation.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said there from lacrosse. Lot to be said about that, but I knew I wasn't playing. And so I basically had two options. Either I could continue to be miserable in my sport or I could quit, and I chose to quit. And the immediate thought I had was, I guess yoga helped me with my first ACL in high school. Maybe I'll start doing yoga again. And at that point, I was moving closer to the beach in San Diego. It's my senior year of college. So I moved to Pacific Beach, for anyone familiar. It's a really, really great place in San Diego. Super cool vibe, super cool yoga culture. And I started at, it's called Reach, is the studio in San Diego. I literally just looked up places close to me. I liked the vibe. I liked that it was a small business. I liked that a lot of the instructors had cool posts on social media. And gosh, I mean, I may have practiced a couple times and I saw a posting on the wall and it said yoga teacher training. And I was like, well, I do have a lot of time. I guess I'll do that. Kind of the same way I committed to San Diego. I'm like, this seems to make sense. So we're going to do this.
Now, when you had recommended Reach to me, I had the great fortune of being able to take a class with the woman who trained you, who was your yoga teacher training person. And I would love for you to share more about her because she was so cool. The only regret I have is that I had to go back here before the microdosing class because that would have been such a trip to go through that experience.
Seriously. And I keep seeing the posts about it. It looks so incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alina, I was not fortunate enough to know her when she was just an instructor, but prior to her owning the studio and really being their leader, I believe was an instructor there for a good few years. And she's been teaching yoga for years and years. I believe since she was 19 years old. And she made it her full-time job early, which any yoga instructor knows that's not an easy thing to do. You have to really grind to be able to live, especially in San Diego, California, on a yoga instructor's salary because you start out pretty small in terms of money. And then eventually your rates can go up and you can get more trainings. But Alina is just such a warm person and she's such a hard worker, and it shows because that studio is so successful. They get incredible communities of people gathered. They give you a lot of different options for experiences just if you're someone practicing there. Kind of like you said, they've got the microdosing thing going now. It's something you would never even really.
Yeah, I'm not a big like cannabis person at all, but just the way that she was selling it, I was like, I am winning California. I was just like, it just seems fun.
Yeah, they've got some good stuff, but yeah, I had taken a couple classes with her prior to signing up for my YTT, but I didn't know her well. Immediately when I started doing YTT, I realized that she draws people in with her personality, and just her ability to connect, I think, is really what makes her stand out. She connects with people very well.
So you're drawn into the teacher training.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because I know a lot of people who've gone through the teacher training at the High Yoga Spot, and they've had really profound experiences going through that process. So as you were drawn into the teacher training, what unexpected things were drawn out of you?
Oh, man, so much. It's really crazy. It's funny because I think, first of all, I went into this YTT not knowing anyone I was doing it with. And if I could recommend to anyone who's thinking about YTT, that is what you should do. I'm sure it's incredible at the Hot Yoga Spot, but if you can get yourself in a situation where it is you and people you don't know very well, and you're going through this process in this way where you're independent, but you're also connecting with these people that have such unique stories and things they're bringing to the table, it's so profound. But gosh, what it drew out of me, I think, first of all, I always loved yoga, but once I figured out that yoga is not just going through a bunch of postures in a hot class and getting a workout / stretch, and there's a lot more to it and it goes very, very deep, I started to love it beyond what I thought I would.
Maybe this is a stretch, but just from what you're saying, it feels like when you first did it, it was just something you did. And then as you evolved in your practice, it became something you really felt and experienced.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. That's a great way to put it, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think going through YTT, I don't know, you'd be crazy to not connect way deeper with your practice and with just the idea of yoga as a whole. But you just learn so much about yourself.
So what did you learn? What did you learn going through the process?
I learned that, truly the first thing that comes to my mind is that I am an insecure person. That was one of the first things that came to me in YTT, because you have to get, okay, I gotta move my phone. Okay. No, that was one of the first things that came to me, because there's a lot of self-expression that happens, or at least in my experience there was. And I remember every time it would come to me, we'd go in a circle and be talking about something, whether it's a reflection or some sort of method of teaching or philosophy. I would be so worried about what I was saying and how it was coming out and how people were going to perceive it. And it's funny, you wouldn't think that yoga would teach you something like that. But really, I think Alina and the other instructors we worked with kind of forced us in a way to just get comfortable expressing ourselves however it comes out, and knowing that the people around us are not going to judge, and in fact they're just thinking about their own perceptions of themselves. That was a big thing, I think, because clearly as a teacher you have to be able to express yourself, but just authenticity in general, I don't think you think about it beyond a shallow level in day to day. When it comes to yoga, you get a little bit deeper to what does it mean to be authentic versus not, and how do you embrace your own authentic self? Because you can't really be authentic with other people until you embrace your own authenticity. So
when did that kind of development really happen for you in your teacher training? Was it during the teacher training? Was it like later on? Like when did you come to some of these realizations?
I would say later on. I think also there was probably a lot for me personally going on, having quit my college sport while I was going through YTT, that some of the reflections, I wasn't really ready to accept all of them. But I think still it was sort of taking me to a place I hadn't explored before within myself and with other people.
Right. I mean, your identity was evolving
Absolutely.
seemingly very rapidly in an already formative time of your life as a college student. So what was the experience like for you going through that and coming maybe more at peace with the reality, okay, my college athletic career is over and I'm moving on to something else?
Ooh, I wish I had a better answer for that, but the honest answer is it was very difficult. It was very difficult to accept that the college athletic identity was behind me. And I think I still, to this day, kind of have to think about it. It comes up often. I think it's true. Once you're an athlete, you're always an athlete. And I believe that to my core, because I'm still an athlete. You're an athlete.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, going from playing sports every single day and having it just be like a no-brainer part of life to now I'm a yoga teacher, which is still very active and athletic, but it's just different. It was really, really hard. And I think, the biggest thing was with yoga and YTT in general, that experience, you just have such a great community around you, because obviously this isn't going to be true in every single case always, but the people that you're in that room with are also going through things and shifting their identity in a way. And I don't know, I feel like the shift was easier because of that. And I was able to accept it more, I guess.
Sure.
But it's hard. Like, the identity shift is hard.
It's always hard.
Mm-hmm.
We're always works in progress. And
Totally.
especially when you make fitness, from my experience, kind of foundational in your life and wellness, you're always in a healthy way having to move the goalposts to some extent.
So true.
And there are points where it feels like you're just pushing up against a wall that's not going to break for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you said earlier, and I want to go back to this, that you feel at times that you are or were an insecure person.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Where does some of that come from?
Gosh, I think some of it is just that a lot of people are insecure. I guess I would say everybody is insecure to a certain degree, or deals with insecurity at some point in their life. But I think a lot of it came from lacrosse, honestly. I think a lot of it came from the end of my athletic career and the fact that I never touched the field one time playing lacrosse in college. I think a lot of it came from that. And even stepping into yoga, it made me, when I started, a really insecure teacher as well. I think it took a real mindset shift to get to the point where truly I was saying, fuck it, who cares? Why do I care what people think of me? Nobody's evaluating where I am on a scale of horrible to perfect. Nobody's doing it. So, let that go. But that took a lot.
That's a big muscle to develop on any type of fitness or wellness journey. The IDGAF muscle, the I don't give a fuck muscle. It's big. And I think it's really cool that you're talking about it, because there's a lot of people who I think don't look at themselves as having the yoga type body.
So
I hear that all the time. And it may not manifest itself physically in what somebody's thinking about with insecurity.
Yep.
But the mental, emotional stuff, when you're in that room leading a practice or just going through a flow yourself, how are you wrestling with like your ongoing insecurities, whether it be mental or emotional?
As a teacher?
As a teacher, just as somebody who's a yogi themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a constant battle pretty much all the time for me. I think I still deal with insecurity stuff. Especially being a woman, not to take away from your experience as a man, but just my experience as a woman and as a yoga teacher is the standards are high, right? For pretty much everything, but especially looks. And then this is kind of where it can, both women and men, everybody, in a yoga studio, you think people have a misconception that people should look a certain way if they're a student of yoga or practicing yoga. But then really, if you think that, you have absolutely no idea what yoga is. I mean, truly. Because if you're thinking of yoga as something where people are supposed to look a certain way and be doing certain poses, you're probably confusing it with, I don't know, some sort of twisted workout class, because it's just not it, I think obviously we have the asanas, our physical practice, which is awesome and incredible, but that is not yoga. Yoga is so much deeper than that. And I think that's something that's helped me a lot, battling specifically in terms of looking at your body and self-image and things like that. I think reminding myself when I'm in a yoga studio, it's a safe haven in that regard. That's not what it's about. And I really do try as a teacher now to teach my students that too, because I know it's awkward being new to yoga and walking in and thinking that you're going to get a room full of really skinny, attractive women in sports bras and leggings. And it's just not it. That's the stereotype, but yoga's not, it's not supposed to be that. And, so I remind myself of that, and I try to also remind my students of that. It's an inclusive thing. Anybody can practice yoga.
Right.
You don't even have to be able to move to practice yoga.
Yeah. And I think of the way that you approach yoga too. We are both very much into cross training. You lift weights, you're into healthy eating. And I know your favorite yoga class to teach, at least what I believe you've said to me, is power yoga. Mm-hmm. How do you feel like power yoga specifically kind of complements weight training and like people who are really wanting to prioritize strength training?
Yeah. Well, I think it's empowering, number one. For people who are strength training and who are athletes, we could just group them. We'll just say people who are athletes. It's different than most of the other things you're doing, or at least that was my experience when I started to practice yoga really consistently and got into power as a student. It's like, oh my God, this is so different than my Olympic lifting schedule. Because that's what I was doing in college when I first got into it. I mean, really, I think it gives you an opportunity to, yes, you're focusing on the lifting and the things you're doing with your body, of course, you're working out, but you're also connecting with your breath and you're connecting with your mind. And I think those are things that, of course, we do as athletes, but sometimes we're not really conscious about it. And sometimes we forget about that side of it, and we're just thinking about the physique and the building and the lifting and all the mechanisms.
Yeah.
But we're not thinking about, okay, what's my breath like, and what is my brain saying, and how can I kind of relax that and focus on the movements. And so it's really empowering for athletes.
Yeah, I think that mind-mental connection is one of my favorite parts of yoga that translates well into strength training in a more gym environment. I mean, for people who kind of follow my own fitness journey, I'm pretty much now at metabolic all the time and then hot yoga spot. And to me, it's the best compliment in the world, because all of a sudden now you have that emotional and mental and spiritual ability that's connected to the physical movement that you're doing. When you really feel centered, either in your yoga teaching role or just doing a yoga class, can you describe at all what that really feels for you?
Yeah, I think it's actually kind of similar. It's similar to the way I describe to people moving meditation. I don't know if you've ever heard of the 108 sun salutations.
Loosely, but educate me.
108 sun salutations. It's pretty much
it, and that's all.
It's pretty much just 108. But do you know what a sun is?
Yeah.
You inhale here, exhale here, fold, and then you do chaturanga. So you do that 108 times. They say yoga practitioners might do that each sunrise and sunset.
Yeah.
The really devoted ones. That is the closest I've ever gotten to fully stilling my mind, is in 108 sun salutation practice. And I think it's kind of that similar connection we're talking about between lifting and yoga, and getting that connection. Where I found the most balanced as both a student and a teacher is when I am just not thinking. Truly. It's like when I can get myself to a point where things are flowing to the point where my thoughts are not, they might be happening, but not in a normal way.
Yeah.
They're just still.
Well, Tommy Birch, who I interviewed on a couple episodes before the episode we're recording now, she talked about energy in motion in terms of emotion, and thinking about that is when we get too emotional in our own thoughts and feelings, it often is energy that's potentially trapped in our own body.
Yeah.
So when we're able to move and actually adopt that idea of movement as medicine, there's that power. And I often feel that once you actually get into that present moment state, there's a Catholic mystic that I love reading once in a while, kind of this concept of sacrament of the ever-present moment. And even Michael Jordan, who I love, like famous basketball player, I think probably the greatest skill set that was talked about in the Last Dance documentary was his ability to just stay focused and be present.
Totally.
It's a superpower.
It absolutely is. And gosh, if every athlete could touch that, even at one point in their career, they would be so much greater for it. But that's true. Movement is medicine. And yeah, I think that once you start looking at getting deeper into your own mind as something that is calming rather than something that causes anxiety, that's kind of when the shift happens. And the shift happens all the time for me, back and forth.
The spiritual and emotional impact of my own yoga practice is the thing that continues to be so profoundly transformational for me.
Yeah, that's great.
And regardless of people's views on spirituality, across different disciplines, there is so much language about the idea of do not worry.
Yeah.
Whether it's a Marcus Aurelius in Stoicism talking about how silly it is and how trivial it is, all the things we spend all this time worrying about, at the end of the day, like, it's just, we don't have control over it.
Absolutely.
To the Serenity Prayer for the Henry Nouwen, if you know that, or even the Gospels themselves. So much language of do not worry.
Totally.
But yoga is, to me, such that active vehicle to practice it.
Totally. It's not always easy though. And I think that's where people get timid about starting.
Yeah.
I think people get freaked out. And this is what I'm really trying to in the next couple of years with, you know, as a teacher, as I move along as a teacher and grow my teaching career. Something I really want to touch people with is it is always difficult to start there because it's not a natural way of thinking in our current society. It's just not. As a person living in this day and age in this country, it is not easy to not worry and to get still. And so I think sometimes there's this false conception or misconception that yoga's not going to work for you because things are too crazy and you can't even chill out when you sit down and go to bed, or you can't touch your toes is another thing people always say. That's another part of it. Yeah. But I think just like with anything, practice makes perfect for sure. But the cool thing is you can go to a yoga class and it not work for you and no one's going to know. And you're still going to have a chill time and enjoy it. You're not going to go and be like stressed out because, I mean, sometimes I am, I guess. But, you know, you have to start somewhere. And if you asked me during my YTT process, we did so much breath work and so many different meditative practices. If you were to ask me, do you think you'll ever be able to, you know, fully meditate and still your mind? I'd be like, absolutely never. But it does get easier. It does get easier over time.
I'm a big movie guy. And so I approach movies and everything I do, from content, life, everything. Like I'll think of a song or something from a movie and then it'll lend itself well. But we've established that The Mighty Ducks is maybe a movie you have not seen from the 90s. Have you ever seen For the Love of the Game?
No.
Okay.
Not like I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
It's so bad.
Put it on the list.
Okay.
Highly recommend. Great rom-dram with some calm, with Kevin Costner, Kelly Preston. He plays a veteran baseball pitcher for the Detroit Tigers.
Okay.
And it's a love story, but there's these sequences where he shuts out the crowd noise, and it's a cool like visual in the movie where it's just like clear the mechanism.
Oh, that's so
And all of a sudden everybody in Yankees, because he's on the road, he's pitching in Yankee Stadium and he's trying to pitch a perfect game. And there's all this distractions going on, but just clear the mechanism and just everything shuts down.
So
all
great.
the noise. Yeah. So sometimes in a yoga practice, even some of your classes, I'll just go clear the mechanism just
I love
to meditate.
I love that. Is there anything I say that helps when you're in a class that you've noticed?
Tone of voice is huge for me.
Interesting. Okay.
There are so many yoga instructors that I love and obsessed with simply because of their vocals.
Fair enough.
It really is the voice for me. That is as a client, as a student, it's an experience for me. So I'm listening. So that soothing, active voice, and even if they're putting on a good show, I appreciate it as an audience.
That's hilarious. It's true. I mean, I can relate.
So like, you know, so the voices, it's funny. Like, you know, I mean, your voice, great. And,
thanks.
You know, great voice.
Thank you.
We're going to turn the rest of the episode into an ASMR.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, like it really just helps. And so sometimes occasionally there's that instructor that is just a little distracting because their voice is just kind of funny or like.
Totally. And they just have to learn how to use it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's like anyone can access it, I think.
Well, it's like the same as anything. Like I get very self-critical about stuff I do where I'm like, oh my gosh, like your voice is like too high, like get into a deeper register as a singer. Like I get really like
I could never be a singer. I could never.
Oh, I love to sing.
Talk about insecure.
We'll get you doing karaoke.
I mean, I'll do karaoke.
Yeah.
I'll do karaoke, but it's not going to be good.
A little karaoke and yoga?
Yeah. No, I'd do it, but it's just not going to be enjoyable for anybody listening. But yes, the voice. That's fair. I think you got to be able to reach people somehow as a teacher.
Yeah. So. I mean, because I think you, in a good way, in an ideal class, you really become lost, and in a good way, you're just submitting to the instructor.
Yeah.
You're letting them take you on a journey where you quiet your mind, you calm the mechanism, however you want to frame it. But it's important.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so grateful for yoga instructors that are really serious and committed to it. I mean, I even think of somebody like a Jenny Lee at Hot Yoga Spot, who in my mind has like the gift of gab. Because some yoga instructors, it's like they're not necessarily as like, we are flowing into this position and pose, but it's almost like a stand-up comedy act a little bit.
Oh my God, that's great. I honestly, I'm awful. I haven't been to a lot of people at Hot Yoga Spot.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun. I mean, everybody's got their own personality, but I think for me, what I'm interested in is as you continue to navigate your yoga teaching career, what are the things that you're looking to kind of continue developing in your own teaching practice?
Yeah. First, I want to get my 500 hour.
Okay.
I don't know if I've told you that, but that's kind of I think that's my next stop. I'm getting my personal training certification right now.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to ask you about that. How's that going?
Sick. I mean, it's super cool. I haven't started actually. Like, it's so sick. I haven't started it. I started the nutrition certification, so I'm a little over halfway through that one.
Yeah.
It kind of came out as a package, and I was like, oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel better, I have not really started seriously mine, because I'm trying to figure out how I continue to want to be in the fitness and wellness space as someone who's fallen in love with it, whether it's like doing some combination of personal training, maybe going through a yoga teacher training process myself.
You should, for sure. I'm going to say you should, but your life will change. Like, it's so great.
Yeah.
Will make you a better person. But yeah, got to finish my nutrition, and then I'm going to do my personal training. Why exactly I'm doing it, I don't entirely know, but I felt a pull, and so I was like, screw it. I have time right now. I'm going to do it. I will say, though, fitness is, for at least this portion of my life, it is my side job. I work for the Senate, is my job, which, that's my political nerd coming out. But so I the time's limited. I can't do every certification at once, but personal training, then I want to do my 500 hour. And then honestly, the number one goal I have for my yoga teaching career is to lead retreats. That's my number one goal. I've only ever been on one, but it was so incredible. And I would absolutely love to start leading retreats in the future.
I got to connect you with Tommy, who I had on the podcast, because that's a big thing that she does.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Is wellness retreats and like everything from having like cold plunges there.
Oh my God. Cold plunges are the best.
Yeah.
No, I would love that. Please connect me for real.
I will, for sure.
No, yoga retreats is, I love travel. I told you I grew up on a plane once a month, but I love to experience new things. And I think especially I can envision myself just gathering a bunch of people. And it's such a unique setting to get energy flowing in a space that's kind of just fun and vacation-like for a bunch of people that love the same things, wellness and yoga and,
Yeah, I think being in flow state conversations with people who are really like-minded, who are just so passionately interested in the same things that you're interested in, is so powerful. It's amazing, some of the studies I've looked at of just, some of it is the pandemic, but it's still this lack of connection.
Absolutely.
For me, like still navigating a grief process of losing my dad last year, I talk a lot about how fitness community has been that essential thing for me, but I think people miss the lead. It's community, period.
Totally.
People just need to be around people that share their values.
Scientifically.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yoga is the best way. It's the best excuse to get you around like-minded people.
So for anybody who's kind of watching, listening, for whatever it is, there's so many people who, whether it's the temperature, whether it's the yoga body concern, or everybody looking at them, what's your advice to those people to kind of push through whatever fear, anxiety, insecurity they have about walking into a yoga studio and at least just checking it out?
Yeah. I mean, my usual advice is screw it, just give it a try. But to be more inclusive, I would say,
I like that though. You know what? Because sometimes people just need, like, look, just screw it.
It's
true
though. I mean, it's true. I would say maybe instead of screw it and try it.
What's the worst that could happen?
I think you should just go one time. Yeah. you've got so many people, experts, not experts, people who have done it themselves and changed their lives that can tell you their incredible experiences. Who knows if you're going to have one? You might go and hate it, but guess what? I'm a teacher. I can't tell you to not leave.
Yeah.
If you go and you're 5 minutes in and you're like, I hate this so much, there is nothing I'd rather do than leave. You can leave. You're paying. No one's going to tell you not to. And if they are, you can probably sue them. So.
Right. And if you take, if you want to take a risk and check out yoga for yourself, you can use my ambassador code ALEC20 at the Hot Yoga Spot. Shameless plug.
You go.
Save yourself save yourself a few dollars.
Gotta slide it in there somehow.
Oh, gotta slide that in.
And you can come to my class.
That's right. You can go to Maya's class. Yeah, use the code ALEC20 for a class with Maya.
Yep.
And then use ALEC10 and get Maya a salad from Bear Blends. Because we've established that at least you can, take a salad from me on camera.
Did I eat it?
We don't know. We didn't show whether you ate it.
Super questionable.
No.
Yeah, no, totally. And then the last thing I'll slide in there is with yoga, so many different styles. Just pick a gentle yin if you can find. Yin's kind of hard. Like a slow, gentle flow. Just give it a try. If you hate it, you never have to go back. I bet you will enjoy it.
Yeah, there's so many different types of yoga too. Mm-hmm. People get overwhelmed by thinking like yoga is like this crazy thing, and there's gentle yoga because you do like what are the yoga classes you do at the Hot Yoga Spot?
Or
I'm not going to ask you to name all 6 locations.
Yeah, don't do it to me.
Don't worry.
I teach power. I teach a slow flow. I teach a like a candlelight all vinyasa. But there's so many. There's so many different classes you can choose from. So choose a simple one at first, and then if you feel up to, like I said, yoga is not just the actual physical moving practice. Yoga is also it's a lot of things you can do by yourself in your room. Even if you're uncomfortable going to a class and being in that setting, do a tiny bit of research for 5 minutes and you can find something that's yoga laying in your bed. So
yeah, and then the last thing too, I just want to underscore the point, you and I both regularly do strength training and hot yoga. Mm-hmm. How do you find that for yourself in your continued personal fitness journey? Those cross disciplines.
It's the best. There's no better way to do it. There's no better way. And I will say definitely the stretch, that it's just not something that I personally am doing if I don't force myself to go to yoga. I'm just not. But really the main thing though is that it's the mind to body connection. It's the breath. It's all the things that maybe when I'm strength training, I'm not quite as careful about focusing on. It's just the best complement, really. The two of those things together are the best. And also running, maybe. I
like to run. I have to be careful about how much I do it, but I stick to the training principle of strengthen and lengthen. But I really can't thank you for having the extensive and lengthened conversation with me about everything that has been going on for you on your fitness and wellness journey.
Anytime. I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, Maya.
Bye.